Hi, this is Brennan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here with Adam Balderstone for another episode of Bedrock and Balderstone. And today we're resuming our Doctor Who discussions. We have not talked about Doctor Who in a while, Adam, and this is actually, we were discussing this, what started this whole thing was us talking about Doctor Who. And it's been so long since we've had a new episode, and it's been so long since we did a classic Who episode, which we really need to get back into, that it's just been a while. So we decided to jump in when the show resumed. We have a new showrunner, we have a new doctor, and we have a brand new episode, The Woman Who Fell to Earth. So the new doctor is Jodie Whittaker, and the new showrunner is Chris Chibnall, who, you know, the fact that he was running the show is the reason why we went back and did so many Torchwood episodes. Yeah. So I feel like we might have some. I think we both agreed it was kind of hard to extrapolate much from Torchwood, but it'll be interesting now to see if we can draw any connections now that he's actually running the show.
Yeah. And to go, since you mentioned Torchwood, I'll just bring up the point too. I feel like Torchwood isn't always the best thing to say that's what a Chibnall show is like, because it was a Russell T Davies show. Yeah. That Russell T Davies at the very last second decided, I got my hands full of Doctor Who, I can't do this, catch, and threw it to Chibnall. So, Chibnall was the showrunner, but he kind of came in at the last minute.
Well, and I guess he's more known for Broadchurch, right? That would be more.
Broadchurch is a genuine Chibnall show.
And I did see definite connective lines between Broadchurch and this. I could see some of that, crossing over. So
visually, like at the opening, bicycle scene, it's like just all that landscape shots. Yeah. I'm like, that felt very Broadchurch to me. It was like he really likes his landscapes.
He likes his landscapes, and he likes sort of moody sunrises and sunsets and reflective light. There's a very it could have easily have been a Broadchurch episode with that opening shot, had it not been for the alien monsters and everything that showed up. So I guess the basic storyline is kind of like Predator. That's how I would describe it. Where
it's very, very Predator. Yep. Yeah, definitely.
And so I don't think we need to say much about it beyond that. We get introduced to the new companions. We get introduced to the new doctor. And I'm still sort of getting used to the companions. So I think we have Graham, Ryan, and Yasmin, if I have their names correct. And we also had another character named Grace, who was very important in the episode.
Yeah.
So before we get into all that stuff, though, what did you think of the episode? Did you like it?
I did. I mean, obviously it is a new showrunner, new doctor, all new companion episode. So it had a lot, it had to do a lot of explanation. It had to do a lot of place setting. But, so I mean, it's not like it was a brilliant episode that knocked it out of the park. But it was a good episode, and I'm really excited for next week, which is all it had to do. I thought it was with the burden of having to set so much up, I thought it did a very good job.
No, I thought it was. I guess the way I would put it is, like you said, it wasn't like the best Doctor Who episode ever, but it was probably one of the better Doctor introductions that we've ever had.
Yeah.
Like, I generally don't like those episodes because it's all
exactly.
There's sort of this. It's sort of like. And I'm going to use a role-playing analogy, but it's like the first adventure where the party has to get together. Do you know what I mean? It's like everybody knows that the party has to get together, and we're all playing this game of, well, we don't really know that that's the end goal here, so we're just going to dance around it until we get to that point. And that's how these episodes usually feel to me. This one didn't feel like that. It felt a little bit like the Matt Smith one, when Matt Smith first showed up to me.
The Matt Smith one was the best one the new series has done of a first Doctor episode up to this point. It may be I think it's probably a better episode than this one, but I definitely rate this the number 2 introduction to a Doctor episode.
Yeah, I would say it was, to me, it was equally strong in terms of how it decided to approach the situation, where even though there was sort of, she's the new doctor, she doesn't have all of her memories, and she has to she has to sort of have an epiphany of some kind. It was put on the back burner for the most part, and it wasn't a huge deal. And I think that made it work.
When I pulled this up on my DVR to start watching, it had little synopsis popped up on the screen. It was like, oh, something about how the doctor can't remember anything and has amnesia. I was like, oh no, we're not going to have, because that was the Doctor Who TV movie they did between the old and new series. They went with amnesia with the Doctor in that episode. It's like the whole point of the Doctor is he knows all these things. It's like giving the Doctor amnesia is like, it's a Superman episode, but he doesn't have any superpowers.
Yeah. And I will say this. I think also, I guess technically the Christopher Eccleston episode, the first one, wasn't that a post-regeneration episode?
It's debatable. Yeah, I mean, because there's a point where he looks in the mirror and was like, oh, look at my ears, and that's how people go, oh, see, he has never seen his face before, but it's never made explicit.
I choose to believe that that's the post-regeneration episode, and I would file that under with if that is this one, that one, and the Matt Smith one, I think are all strong. The David Tennant one and the Capaldi one. The Capaldi one really bothered me. Number one, because I really liked Capaldi. Peter Capaldi was a great doctor, but that introduction was so maddening to watch. It was just frustrating the whole way through. And the David Tennant one was kind of similar because I think he was in bed most of the time, right?
Yeah. I'd say the last 15 minutes of that episode are pretty good. That's like where it's like, oh, when he walks out of the TARDIS in his bathrobe, it's like, boom, it's like, okay, suddenly the episode comes alive after an entire episode of garbage. That it's like, so I mean, it redeems itself enough to make you want to watch more Tennant, but it really didn't have to take so long getting it.
Now, in terms of the story, what did you think? Did you like the overall storyline? Did you like the use of the Predator? Because it is Predator, basically. Well, they call him the Stenza, and he puts teeth in his face. Takes the teeth of his victims and embeds them in his face, and it's basically a trial for him to become the leader of the warrior class of the Stenza, right? That was the
exactly. If he completes the rite of passage, but I mean it's fine. It's like I think it's good to have a minimal plot in these kind of episodes, like we talked about. I mean, comparing the ones we just talked about, the original Tennant episode, you spend all this time with these aliens and stuff, and very little time with the Doctor, and that's the wrong way to do it. Whereas the Matt Smith premiere, the whole Prisoner Zero, I forget, but
I think that was it.
Yeah, it's like that's another minimal plot. That takes about the same amount of time as the teeth face guy and the Tim Shaw, that's his name. I mean it gives time for the episode to breathe, for us to spend time with the Doctor and the companions all hanging out, and that's what the episode should really be about, getting the party together, to put it back to your role play comparison. So yeah, I was fine with I'm not going to say I love the enemy in this, but I thought there was the appropriate amount of opposition in this for what the episode should do.
He was a perfectly serviceable Doctor Who enemy, and we're obviously we may learn more about the Stenza next. I don't know. It was a little unclear to me where the episode left off when they materialized where they did. But so far, I mean, I like the atmosphere of the episode. I thought that was one of the things it did really well, because it's October and I'm kind of in the mood for more horror style episodes, and I thought that this episode really nailed getting that just between the way it was shot and the lighting and all that. Some aspects of it when I first watched it, initially I felt like it was maybe a little bit slow paced, but then I realized I was just sleepy. And so it wasn't really a pacing issue. And there was also the issue of the way that they decided to air it in America, which we could talk about now or we could talk about later. But that also I felt had an impact. Because I watched it this morning on Amazon, and that was commercial free. It was premiere celebration free, and it was really enjoyable. When I tried watching it on Sunday, number one, I was tired, like I said, so I actually fell asleep midway through. And the big thing that I think was throwing me off was they kept going to the premiere celebration and interviewing people, and just the juxtaposition of moody Doctor Who episode to Celebration where we're suddenly talking to Will Wheaton about stuff. It just didn't. The transition didn't work for me, and it made me more tired than anything else.
Yeah. I remember BBC America did that during the Matt Smith era too on some episodes, and it was like really irritating to me because it's like, okay, you're trying to get into this new Doctor, feel this new Doctor as a person and stuff, and get a feel for who they are, and then every 10 minutes you're jumping to the actor talking about blah blah blah, as themselves, and it's like you're really making it hard for me to buy into the reality of the show if you're going to keep breaking. It's like watching a play and having the actors come out between every scene and talk about the play.
No, there's that, and I think there's a few other things there that number one, they can do it before the show, like when they've done it as like a introduction to the Doctor as its own little mini episode before the episode. You can choose to watch it or not. I prefer the way they did it with Capaldi, where it was a sit-down discussion. Do you know what I mean? Like I mean, it was still celebratory, but it was like he came out and he talked, and it wasn't. This felt like I was watching a party I would never be invited to. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what bothered me about it. It just was like, I don't have any interest in what you guys are talking about. I don't really like the style of the interviews, and everything is so glitzy that it's just not. It's not like I'm just trying to enjoy Doctor Who. So
yeah, I only saw bits of that because I wisely was DVRing it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to wait an hour and let the DVR fill up a bit so that I could just fast forward through the commercials. So when the interviews popped up, I was like, oh man, I am really glad I gave myself the fast forward option on this. Yeah. So I only caught snippets of it going through. I mean, one interview snippet that stuck out at me. It was like there was like Will Wheaton and some other woman being interviewed, and it's like some of the comments like, wow, that sonic screwdriver is going to be so cool. Kids are going to start playing with sonic screwdriver toys as if they were like Harry Potter wands. They're going to be the next Harry Potter wand, and I'm like, sonic screwdriver toys for kids have been around since before I was born. That's not a brilliant insight. It's like, why is this interview in the middle of the show?
Yeah, no, and a lot of the stuff that was going on kind of felt like that. I mean, it just and the thing is, I know for a fact that like a lot of Doctor Who fans were kind of ticked off about all that stuff. That, for example, like why stretch the second showing to 2 hours? Because the thing is, you had sent me an email saying just to be aware, and you were working off whatever information was available at the time.
My information is, I looked at my cable guide and I was like, okay, I'm going to DVR the upcoming episode. Okay, there's 2 entries came up. It was the episode came up, and an episode with that in parentheses after it's special edition. I was like, oh, there's a special edition and a normal edition.
So, and that's a totally logical conclusion that you reached, which was there's going to be 2 different versions of the episode. We figured that the first one was going to be like the cut down version, and the second one would be like either a director's cut that they were only going to air this time, or the real version that they were getting in England that they weren't going to show at the first slot in America.
So I mean, it's BBC America, just for people that don't know, they're either in other countries or whatever. It's the first time. Well, basically, they used to always cut down Doctor Who episodes. They cut about 5 minutes out of every episode, often in a completely random and arbitrary plot-ruining way. But starting with the 11th Doctor, they would run it in full length the first time. Then in reruns, you always see a cut version when you see a BBC America rerun of a Doctor Who episode. There's a chunk of it missing.
BBC America is terrible for all kinds of reasons. First, for me, is that the quality of their transmission is pretty bad in a lot of places. Where I live, they're the one channel that I don't get at the quality that I get my other channels at. And whenever I've contacted my provider, they said it's the channel. There's just an issue with that channel. And so there's a serious issue of quality with them. But number 2, they do stupid stuff. Like, I like Star Trek. I like Star Trek: The Next Generation a lot. I don't understand why it's airing on BBC America all the time, and why they do it in these enormous blocks of 8 episodes back to back.
Yeah. BBC America is separate from the BBC, just for that's just to let people know. It's like it's a company that's paid for the right to use the BBC name. So it's. Well, it's a terrible TV station that is not the BBC.
Here's what's wrong, and maybe there's financial reasons that would explain this, but if that's the case, then they shouldn't be the ones that are paying for the right to have the BBC name. But
I feel like after all the years of terrible things they've done, the BBC should go, we're not renewing the contract.
but I because the way that it works is you turn on BBC America, and like on any given week, they're only playing like 5 shows. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe they've changed it recently because when Doctor Who wasn't airing, I wasn't paying as much attention to BBC America. But whenever I've gone on in the past, it'll be like Top Gear for all of today, and then Doctor Who for all of tomorrow, and then Graham Norton for all of the next day, and that's but why aren't they showing there are so many classic series that they could be airing on BBC America, like Father Ted, Blackadder, Yes Minister, there are all these great series that they could be putting up that they're not for whatever reason, and it's just mysterious to me because back in the day when we used to get BBC here, they would air Father Ted and they would air Red Dwarf and they would air all these great shows, and I just find it frustrating because as interesting as I find Top Gear, I don't find it as I want to see the reason I go to BBC is because they have well-written shows. Do you know what I mean? I don't go there to watch people race cars or to watch game shows or watch talk shows. Again, Graham Norton, he was on Father Ted, he did a great job. He's very good on his talk show, so I'll make an exception for him. But for the most part, I don't want those kinds of shows on a cable channel that I'm paying extra money for. So and now we're getting way away from.
We should probably get back to the episode at this point. But because I could go on all day about BBC America. But I guess maybe we should talk about Jodie Whittaker. So it's
So what did you think of her as the new Doctor? How did you like her out of this episode?
Well, at the end, we talked about the last episode of the previous, really the special. I had a really good feeling. We only got this little 10-second snippet of her, and I was like, ooh, that looks really intriguing.
Yeah.
And I feel like she delivered. I feel like, I got the Doctor I was hoping I would get from those few moments. I think she just kind of hit all the notes of being the Doctor. I was like, I completely believe this character was the Doctor. She had the eccentricity. She had the humor. She was believably smart. I mean, it just all worked for me.
Yeah, I thought she was great as the Doctor. And again, I had the same feeling. I know we had talked about that episode before, and she made a very good impression with that little moment that she had. But you don't know what you're going to get when you actually watch the series. And so I was quite impressed with her performance. She actually, who she reminded me a lot of was David Tennant. That was probably the Doctor she reminded me the most of. But she was also doing this thing. I don't know how to describe it. One of her characteristics that I kept noticing was, if she gets knocked down, she just gets up instantly and it's like she just keeps moving. There's a high level of energy to this Doctor that I think really works well, and I think that she really is she's just able to immediately zero in and focus after something incredibly distracting, and I find that an interesting trait. And as always, this is the phase of the Doctor where we probably don't have the complete picture yet. I think back to Capaldi's first 2 episodes, and it was not exactly clear where he was going to be. And it's a very different place from where he was at the end of the series. The same thing with Matt Smith, and the same thing with David Tennant even. And so I think so all we're really able to judge is, does she feel like the Doctor at this point? And I'd say yes.
Yeah, and I mean I think they perfectly balanced, bring up the fact it's the first female Doctor. Just having that one little scene where it's like, why are you calling me madam? It's like, well, because you're a woman. I'm like, oh, am I? Does it suit me? And that was it. That was other than that, there was no mention of it, and it was just boom. They didn't overplay it. They just, that's it.
No,
That's went on with the episode.
I thought that was the right way to do it because it's like it didn't get derailed into that topic. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which would have taken away from highlighting the qualities that she was bringing to the Doctor role. And so I think that was a smart choice. I'm curious because I saw you made a little bit of a face when I said Tennant, and so maybe you didn't have that reaction. Maybe you were thinking.
No, it was. I did make a face. It was a thoughtful face. At least that's what I was attempting. It was like, I hadn't thought about it. So, yeah, I don't have a particular insight or anything to say. It's like I didn't think about her in a. I guess, which is a good thing. I was just thinking about her as the Doctor. I wasn't going. Is there a bit of this? Is there a bit of that? It felt like a convincing version of the Doctor to me. Probably as we go forward in these reviews, I'll have more things where I can kind of comment on who she's pulling on. But yeah, I couldn't say for certain what influences that are there yet.
No, and I mean, again, this was just my initial impression, so I could be way off. That was just what I kept thinking when I watched it, and I didn't think it in terms of like, oh, she's just imitating him, but more like how. Like Matt Smith is kind of reminiscent of the second Doctor. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like he's his own Doctor, by every possible way that you could measure that. But like it's kind of always nice to have a Doctor that they can harken back to as sort of like this is the style of Doctor that we might be getting.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. But yeah, it's I mean. No, so yeah, I guess we're both agreed that she nailed the part there, and
she was good with the humor too. The humor she really was good at, which is important.
Yeah, I mean, I already knew from other things she's done that she's got a knack for comedy, so I was pretty confident in that. Yeah, she just pulled that off flawlessly.
That was my biggest worry actually, because because like that's the hardest thing to do, I think. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I've seen a lot of serious actors that when they try to do comedy, it just doesn't land. And it's sort of like who would be a serious like Alec Baldwin. He was one of those people who turned out to be really good at going from serious roles to comedy. Do you know what I mean? And but there are plenty of actors that just can't make that kind of transition. And so I think I was worried. Oh, well, what if she can't do comedy? But she got it.
I originally saw her in Attack the Block, and I saw Venus were the first things I knew her from, both where she has some opportunity to be comedic. So
I've only seen her in Broadchurch, which is like the furthest thing from a comedy you can imagine.
Yeah, the grieving mother part is a very, very different role.
And also there was some clip of a play she was in that some jerk on YouTube was saying it was like a clip of the remember when there was like a little clip of her from this series got leaked into the public, and the BBC
I missed that whole thing.
There was apparently there was like a clip that got leaked, and the BBC, I think they clamped down on it really fast, so it was like purged from the internet. And some jerk was posting on YouTube, the exclusive clips of the new Doctor, and when you followed it, it was her in a play with like a little. Like he had just superimposed the TARDIS into the background.
I have to say I have avoided as much Doctor Who news over the last year or so, just because I'm like I'm just going to watch this with as fresh a feeling as I can. I want my eyes just untainted by all the comments on anything anyone has to say about this, and so I feel I made the right choice.
Yeah, it was just the temptation was too great for me in that instant. I couldn't resist. So what did you think of the companions? We have 3 companions, it seems, which is, I mean, I guess that's sort of, that we have had 3 companions before, so that's, I kind of like it when there's a full group. I feel like it feels nice, and I don't know, it doesn't feel as lonely as when it's just 2 sometimes,
Yeah, no, I have no problem with the multiple companion things. Yeah, and of course they were kind of playing games with us a little bit, because we have the other guy on the train, who is the one character whose name I didn't get into my notes, who is the guy that the Predator is chasing.
That's Carl. Carl.
That's Carl. Okay, I couldn't remember his name, but yeah, because it's like potentially, Carl could have been one of the companions, and then you've also, of course, got Grace. Grace, of course. So it's like they kind of have 5 characters in the mix. It's 3 of them make it through the episode as the companions. It's But yeah, I like the companions from what we've seen so far. I mean, it's it's a little early to say a whole lot about all of them. I think they did a good job with Bradley in that he's the most reluctant companion, but they walk that line of him just seeming sensible and somewhat pragmatic. It's like when he does get involved, he's not. He's like, yeah, he's useful and he does things. He's kind of acting like a normal person. It's like, wait, why are we getting involved in fighting an alien invasion?
And he's a little bit stiff, which kind of works. Like it works as he's sort of the stiff guy in the group. I think Graham and Ryan were the two that got fleshed out the most this episode.
They did. Yeah,
Yasmin, I'm still not.
Enigma. She's ambitious. She wants to prove herself as a cop, but she didn't get as much. But I liked what we saw of her.
And so what did you think of? So I mean, we talked about the villain a little bit, but what did you think of the whole Tim Shaw gag running through the episode?
The Tim Shaw gag worked because Jodie Whittaker really sold it. I mean, her saying his name wrong over and over again to annoy him. It was just Tim Shaw. I
don't know if she was doing it to annoy him. I think she was honestly confused.
Maybe. Either way, it was really funny. It's the kind of gag that's all in the performance. Like you said, comedy's hard. If you've had the wrong person in that role, it would have been like, whatever. But she sold it.
Yeah, because when I saw it, I was like, this is kind of a really stupid joke, but I'm really enjoying it.
Exactly.
So I think she really sold it. I think you're right. And again, that was one of the moments where I was like, I really like this doctor. Like when she did the Tim Shaw thing, that it was just working for me. Was there anything about the episode you didn't care for, or you thought should have been different, or I don't know, just any criticisms that you had of it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. This isn't necessarily a criticism, but it's an oddity with the episode. Because it could be something that's going to be brought up, but I found it. So it could be something really interesting. So I don't know if this is a flaw, but it's really interesting the way they had Grace die doing something that was largely irrelevant. And cause they could have given her a heroic sacrifice death or something, but it's like she wants to go back in even though the doctor tells her not to, and they have the whole electrical thing, and they go and electrocute this drone thing, which isn't really doing anything. And I found that kind of intriguing, because it's not commented on at any point as the episode goes on. And I don't know, that was an interesting choice, and I don't know if they're going anywhere with it.
Yeah, because with a minor adjustment, they could have had her sacrifice herself to eradicate the Tim Shaw character.
Yeah. So saying it seemed like it had to be a deliberate choice, but they at least haven't yet touched on that again. So it's I don't know. I found that very curious.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought she was I mean, obviously spoilers, but I thought she was a good character for the length of time that we had her. Mm-hmm. And I think, I mean, her main function in the story is obviously to kind of give us a sense of who Graham and who what's Ryan? Is that the other one?
Yeah, she's the connection. As they establish, Ryan isn't interested in accepting Bradley as his grandfather, but so there's kind of a distance between them, and she's the thing trying to pull them together. And now, so yeah, obviously that's going to be an ongoing character thing through the whole season. But,
well, it creates an interesting dynamic, because if she were the companion and Graham had died, we would already know how the dynamic is going to play out. But because it's that, we don't know how it's going to play out. So it should be a little more interesting. And also, I think it's one of those things where it kind of forces them to become companions. Do you know what I mean? Like they now have no real tether to the. to the world. Like even when companions have parents, except for like say Rose, sometimes it can be a distraction to have the parents present. Do you know what I mean? So I think that, and she's his grandmother, not his mother, but yeah, I thought that it was an unusual way for her to die, but it endeared me more to her the way that they did it, so it worked.
Yeah, I think that's it. Like I said, this is not a complaint, but it's just that when I started thinking about complaints, my brain kind of went to this, just because it is something that was unusual, and so I just felt like I had to pull that out there. But actual complaints about the episode, boy. I don't know what were your complaints. Come back to me on that. It's been a few nights since I watched it now, so I'm a little bit rusty.
I mean, I don't really have any serious complaints. I thought some of the stuff with the bike was a little bit heavy-handed. Do you know what I mean? I thought that the bike and the dyspraxia felt a little heavy-handed to me. It was
weird to me. That was another weird thing. It's like, okay, he's got this condition where he doesn't have good reflexes. Why are you guys trying to force him to ride a bike? Just like I didn't get why they were kind of pushing him into it. It's like, okay, he can't ride a bike, leave him alone.
I mean, I know people in my family with dyspraxia. It's basically clumsiness. Do you know what I mean? Like that's basically what it's basically like it's kind of like a more precise diagnosis, but that's like the easiest thing to compare it to. But I would think if you were an adult who never learned to ride a bike, you would just not want it. You just wouldn't. There are things that I never learned to do that I wouldn't. He was something about his behavior in that scene. It just seemed like a little bit juvenile to me. Do you know what I mean? It just didn't seem like an adult way to be with that situation. Like there are a lot of people that have, for whatever reason, can't do whatever, and they either sort of diligently practice it or they just don't do it anymore. Do you know what I mean? But it's not like it was kind of like that scene would have made sense if he was 12, but to me it didn't really land right with him being an adult. So
I'll say one thing I liked in the bicycle plot though is I liked the fact that after his nan dies and he goes back to the field and he gets the bike, he still can't ride it. That was it's like the cliche cheesy thing would be like, I did it for you, man. Yeah. I wish you were here.
Well, who knows? We might get that by the end of the season. We don't know.
Maybe we will. But yeah, I thought it was a good. It landed better for me with him failing.
But that's like the only real criticism I have of it. When I first watched it, I was going to criticize the pacing, but then I realized that really was much more a product of the way that this 2-hour version was presented and how tired I was that evening. So
I fast forwarded through all that stuff, so I didn't have that issue. I found the pacing was fine.
And there was something I liked that I don't know if I'm going to like it going in the future. What was the time scale on this episode? Because I feel like it wasn't like we got like an hour of real time, because we saw, I think, what was it, sunset to sunrise or something, or there was even an epilogue too, but like it felt like it all took the place over a single evening. I liked how that played out over this episode. I just hope that they don't limit themselves to that time scale the whole season.
Okay.
I think for certain episodes it'll work. I think for some you'll need more time jumps and more location jumps and stuff. But for this episode, it gave it the room it needed to sort of play out without being jarring. Some of the, like, the worst episodes for me in the past 8 years, or however many years, more than 8 years, however long this has been on, New Who's been going on, 2005. So the worst episodes are when they were doing the condensed storytelling ones. And there were some actual good episodes in there, but I did not like the structure of them cramming in like loads and loads of characters and backstory in a tight time frame. I like it when there's room for the episodes to breathe. But on the other end of the extreme, you could run into the Torchwood season 4 problem, where they were kind of trying to do real time or close thing to it, and that was that really imposes like then you get into 24 territory where this character is now on a plane for the next 3 episodes. So
yeah, no, I know I didn't have any issue with the time frame in this episode. I thought it was nice we got the epilogue in there too. That was well done. It was a good emotionally affecting epilogue there because Grace was a really good character. They did a good job. If you're going to set up the character to be the sacrificial character in the first episode who's going to die and the other character's going to be affected by it, they did a good job of making her someone that I personally liked. So if we have more over the course of the season with Ryan and Bradley both kind of dealing with that, it's like, okay, I'm on board because she isn't a nothing character to me.
And I forgot to mention this episode was directed by Jamie Childs and it was written by Chris Chibnall. So I'm sure we'll as the season unfolds we'll have other directors coming in. And is Chris Chibnall? Do you know how many episodes he was supposed to write this season, or has that not been mentioned?
I don't think it's been mentioned. I went to the as far as the Wikipedia list of episodes, it's got the directors for all the episodes. Jamie Childs does a number of them, including the 2 last ones, but only the first 2 episodes, both of which are written by Chris Chibnall, have a written by, and the rest all have TBA. So
okay, all right. So we'll see going forward what the roster is.
Yeah,
but that's usually an important indicator because there always are those writers. Whenever that writer appears, you're not going to like the episode most likely, and vice versa, where you're in for something quite good.
Exactly. And every now and then they surprise you. I have to say, there's been a few steadfast role writers that I steadfastly didn't like on Doctor Who, and then they turned it around for me. But in fact, I didn't like the first couple of Chris Chibnall episodes I saw, but then he did some that I really liked.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on which episodes he did again, but I remember we had a conversation about that.
I think the first one he did was 42, I think, was the first one that he did, where they were trapped on that spaceship where they had all the locked doors and stuff, and I don't know, it didn't work for me.
I don't remember that one bothering me. I don't remember it really standing out hugely either.
It wasn't a terrible one. I mean, he was never someone I hated as a writer on the show. Actually, I guess I never had that big a problem with him. He did Cold Blood, Hungry Earth. And
what did you think of Dinosaurs on a Spaceship? Do you remember what you thought of that?
I actually liked that one.
Yeah. See, I think I enjoyed that episode, but the thing I didn't like about it was the condensed storytelling. That, again, that wasn't his choice, but that was the structure they were using that season, where you had all these back characters and backstory leading into the episode that they just blazed through. Go ahead.
It's interesting you bring it. I'd forgotten he did Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, because a thought that I had about this season, with the Bradley character being the older character, it's like we haven't had an older companion like that before in the new series, but they've flirted with the idea. Like we had Donna's grandfather show up occasionally. Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. We get we get the father in that, and it's like. And I've actually enjoyed those older characters whenever they've been on the show. But I've always been kind of like, wow, it would be cool if one of those characters actually became a real companion. And it's like, it seems like Chibnall is actually doing that for the first time.
No, I think it works, because I think you get the dynamic of having like a grandparent figure, a parent figure, and then the children figures. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that really, and that's why I say it feels less lonely. It feels, I don't know, there's something more warm about that. And the grandparent figures are the ones that can be really easy to forget about and overlook, but they're so important. You know what I mean? And so I think that's why his character is useful here. Also, I think it's why him being a little bit more stiff than the other people, a little more slow to step in, made a lot of sense.
It did, yeah. Like I said, it would have been really easy for that character to come off as like cowardly, or but it's like, no, he just seemed sensible. That's all.
But
which is a reasonable thing.
No, I think the character who came out looking the worst in this one was Carl out of everybody.
Carl, yeah.
But that's almost like a stock character at this point, especially in Torchwood. I would have to say, like Torchwood had a lot of characters like that, like the sort of like the loser who is kind of except in this case he didn't really achieve any greatness by the end, or there was no turnaround for his character. He just had those god awful self-help tapes that he was listening to, and no, he was pathetic in a lot of ways. But it remember the episode of Torchwood where the character dies, the character who he has the marble that he is trying to sell.
Yes.
It reminded me a little of that type of character.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That was an interesting Torchwood episode, definitely. But I'm like I said, the most important thing is like when we got, going back to hating BBC America again. There's no opening credits on this episode, but in Britain the episode ends with the new theme and all of that. You get the new version of the music and all of that stuff. In the U.S., the second you get to the point where they're stranded in space, it just cuts to an interview. And it's like, I didn't even realize the episode was over. It was kind of, it's like, I didn't get any closure on the end of this episode because BBC America can't let you, have anything.
No. Here's what I'll say. I saw it on Prime this morning, and you have to pay for it. The other episodes I think are streaming, but the new season you have to pay for. And I thought that it was that it worked really well just as it was presented there. And I think that's basically the BBC version. I could be wrong, but it says BBC on the thing, so I'm assuming it's the BBC
the Amazon
version.
Prime version is always the original version. Yeah.
So I mean, all BBC America has to do is air it exactly the way it's aired in England. That's all they have to do. They don't need to do anything else. And if they do that, fans will be happy. The content will be good. But they do these things that are like mind-bogglingly weird that add nothing to the show.
I mean, I just immediately there's like no gap between them being in space and suddenly you're in an interview and you're like, well, okay, I fast forwarded for a while, then I'm like, oh wait, I guess there's no more show after this.
And I just don't know why they think they need to do this stuff. Like, do they think that if they don't have this celebration that's sort of cut around it, that people won't understand how important the premiere is? And I felt like the whole time they were kind of telling us about how to feel about everything. And I was like, I can judge this on my own. I don't need you to tell me how to feel. Like I'll watch it and I'll reach my own conclusions. I really don't like when they try to plant ideas in your head about how you should feel about a show. But I just want to watch it, and I'm gonna like even when like a new movie comes out and you have the actors and the directors going around giving their talking points on a film, I completely ignore that because I just don't like the idea of somebody telling me like, okay, this is how I want you to feel when you see this movie, and what they're trying to do. And so
it's annoying too because I feel like they did such a grounded presentation of the new Doctor in the episode itself. I felt like, they didn't oversell her. They just, boom, we just got, they handled it so moderately and perfectly in this episode. Like, have all this surrounding tissue of hype. It's just like, let the work speak for itself. They nailed it. Don't ruin it.
You didn't need somebody with a megaphone next to her, behold, you didn't need anything.
It's the new Doctor, check her out.
It was because the quality of her performance was so good that it just worked as its own thing. I didn't need all this other stuff, and I felt like you're saying all that other tissue was kind of taking away from the quality of the show itself, because the show in isolation was a quality episode. It was one of the strongest Doctor introductions in New Who. Do you know what I mean? And so I mean that's I think that they didn't need to give us all this additional details. And again, I saw it. You know, it's not just us. I saw people that are much bigger and more enthusiastic Doctor Who fans than us, you know, making this same sort of complaint about how BBC America handled all that stuff. So I don't know. Any additional thoughts before we head out? So it looks like we lost Adam, but we lost him at a good time because this is where I was going to cut off anyways. So I'm going to let everybody go. I do want to remind people that House of Paper Shadows is available in print and PDF. It's a haunted house wuxia adventure. It's got a lot of body horror elements, and it comes with a bunch of pre-gens, so you don't necessarily need to make characters to run it. I think it's a really great Halloween adventure. You can check it out on our webpage. You can go to RPG Now or the Studio 2 sales page. And I also want to remind people that we do have a Patreon page for Wuxia Weekend, which helps us to obtain movies and things like that. So I would recommend people check out the Patreon page, which I'll link to. And we'll be back with another episode of I, Claudius. We're also going to be doing Black Magic 2 this coming Friday. And until then, we will talk to you later.